Welcome back to Official Sigma Male, where we decode the mindset that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most defining characteristics of the Sigma male, the unshakable ability to remain calm when chaos erupts around them. While others panic, react emotionally, or make impulsive decisions that they'll regret later, the Sigma observes, calculates, and acts with surgical precision. Think about the last time you witnessed someone completely lose their composure in a high-pressure situation. Maybe it was a colleague melting down during a crucial presentation, or someone road raging over a minor traffic incident. Now contrast that with the Sigma response. A measured pause, keen observation of all variables, mental calculation of the best course of action, and then decisive execution. This isn't just emotional intelligence, it's operational excellence. At the highest level, in the next series of insights, we're going to explore why Sigmas never go crazy, and more importantly, how you can develop this same unbreakable mental framework. We'll break down the 7 pillars of Sigma mental mastery that turn potential disasters into opportunities for dominance. And if you're ready to transform your approach to life's challenges from reactive to strategic, make sure you subscribe to Official Sigma Male, because this channel is your headquarters for Sigma excellence, and today's insights are just the beginning of your mental evolution. The Sigma Mindset Foundation. The first principle that prevents Sigmas from going crazy is understanding that emotional reactions are luxury expenses they cannot afford. While the average man operates from a place of emotional immediacy, feeling angry, therefore acting angry, the Sigma has developed what I call emotional intelligence arbitrage. He recognizes that every emotional reaction costs him strategic positioning, and he's not willing to pay that price. Consider this scenario. You're in a business meeting, and a colleague publicly challenges your proposal with what seems like a personal attack. The beta male's response? Immediate defensiveness, raised voice, maybe even walking out. The alpha male? Aggressive counterattack to reassert dominance. But the Sigma, he pauses, processes the real motivation behind the challenge, identifies the political dynamics at play, and responds in a way that not only addresses the challenge, but positions him as the composed leader in the room. This foundation isn't built overnight. It's constructed through what I call pressure testing your triggers. The Sigma deliberately exposes himself to situations that would normally trigger emotional responses, but instead of avoiding them, he uses them as training grounds. Traffic jams become patience exercises. Difficult people become emotional regulation. Practice. Setbacks become resilience building blocks. The neurological reality is fascinating. When you consistently choose analytical response over emotional reaction, you're literally rewiring your brain's default pathways. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, begins to trust your prefrontal cortex to handle threats logically rather than emotionally. This creates what neuroscientists call cognitive flexibility, but what we call Sigma mental supremacy. Here's the practical application. Starting today, implement the 3-second rule. Before any response to a potentially triggering situation, count 3 seconds while asking yourself, what would serve my long-term interests better, reacting from emotion or responding from strategy? This simple pause is the foundation upon which Sigma mental mastery is built. The Sigma understands that emotions are data, not directives. Anger tells you something needs addressing, but it doesn't tell you how to address it. Fear indicates potential. Risk, but it doesn't dictate your response to that risk. Joy signals alignment, but it doesn't mean you should abandon caution. By treating emotions as information rather than instructions, the Sigma maintains the driver's seat in his own mind. Emotional detachment as a superpower. The second pillar of Sigma mental mastery is understanding that emotional detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. While others confuse detachment with indifference, the Sigma knows that detachment is actually the highest form of caring about outcomes. When you're emotionally attached to a specific result, you cloud your judgment with hope, fear, and expectation. When you're emotionally detached, you see the situation for what it actually is, not what you want it to be or fear it might become. Think about a master chess player. He doesn't get emotionally attached to any particular piece, even his queen. If sacrificing the queen leads to checkmate, he makes that move without hesitation. The Sigma applies this same principle to every area of life. He's not emotionally attached to his ego being stroked, to being right in every argument, or to having others validate his decisions. This detachment gives him a massive strategic advantage because he can make moves that serve his long-term interests, even when those moves are temporarily uncomfortable. I want you to imagine two investors during a market crash. Investor A is emotionally attached to his stocks. He bought them because he believed in the company. He's proud of his picks, and seeing them drop feels like personal failure. He holds on too long, hoping for a recovery, and loses everything. Investor B, the Sigma investor, views his stocks as tools, not trophies. When the data shows the crash is real, he cuts his losses immediately and repositions for the recovery. Same event, opposite outcomes because of emotional attachment versus emotional detachment. The practical framework for developing this detachment is what I call the observer self. Throughout your day, imagine there's a version of you sitting in the corner, watching the main you navigate situations. This observer self asks questions. Why is he getting upset about this? What would happen if he just accepted this outcome? How will this matter in 5 years? This creates psychological distance from immediate emotional impulses. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think detachment means not caring. The Sigma cares deeply about outcomes, but he cares more about effective action than emotional expression. He's detached from the drama, but attached to the results. He doesn't need to feel passionate about every decision. He needs to make decisions that move him toward his objectives. The ultimate expression of this detachment is what I call emotional Aikido. Instead of fighting against difficult emotions or difficult people, the Sigma uses their energy for his own purposes. Someone's anger becomes information about their vulnerabilities. Someone's fear becomes an opportunity to provide calm leadership. Someone's desperation becomes leverage in negotiations. This isn't manipulation, it's strategic emotional intelligence. The observer's strategic advantage. The third pillar transforms what most men see as a weakness, stepping back from immediate action, into the Sigma's greatest strength. While others rush to react, the Sigma takes what I call the strategic pause. This isn't hesitation, it's intelligence gathering. In those crucial moments when everyone else is operating on autopilot, the Sigma is collecting data that will determine the outcome. Consider a heated argument between two people in your presence. The average person either joins one side, tries to mediate immediately, or removes himself from the situation. The Sigma, he observes. He watches body language, listens to voice patterns, identifies the real issue beneath the surface conflict, notes who has social power in the group, and calculates which intervention, if any, would serve his interests. By the time he acts, he has a complete understanding of the dynamics, while everyone else is operating blind. This observer advantage extends to every area of life. In business negotiations, while others are focused on making their next point, the Sigma is reading micro-expressions, noting which topics create tension, identifying decision-makers versus influencers, and recognizing when someone is bluffing versus when they're revealing genuine constraints. This observational data becomes his strategic ammunition. The key is developing what I call peripheral awareness. Most people have tunnel vision. They focus intensely on the immediate interaction while missing the broader context. The Sigma trains himself to maintain broad situational awareness. He notices who enters and leaves rooms, how group dynamics shift with different people present, which topics energize people versus which topics drain them, and how unofficial hierarchies operate alongside official ones. Here's a practical exercise. For 1 week, enter every social or professional situation with the goal of learning rather than performing. Instead of trying to impress, convince, or achieve immediate outcomes, focus purely on gathering intelligence. Watch how people interact, what motivates them, what threatens them, and what excites them. You'll be amazed at how much valuable information people reveal when you're observing rather than reacting. The observer advantage also applies to self-awareness. The Sigma observes his own patterns, which situations trigger which responses. When his judgment becomes clouded, what his actual motivations are versus what he tells himself they are. This self-observation prevents the kind of self-deception that destroys other men's decision-making ability. The ultimate goal is becoming what I call the man who sees around corners. While others react to what's happening now, the Sigma anticipates what's coming next. He recognizes patterns before they complete, identifies opportunities before they become obvious, and positions himself advantageously before others even realize the game has changed. Data collection under extreme pressure. The fourth pillar separates true Sigmas from men who merely appear calm, the ability to gather accurate information when stress levels are highest. Anyone can observe when life is peaceful, but the Sigma's superpower is maintaining analytical clarity when chaos erupts around him. This is where most men fail. The moment pressure increases, their information-gathering ability decreases, leading to decisions based on incomplete or distorted data. Picture this scenario. You're in a business crisis. Revenue is down, key employees are threatening to quit, and investors are asking hard questions. The average executive becomes reactive, calling emergency meetings, making dramatic pronouncements, or implementing hasty changes. The Sigma executive does something completely different. He systematically gathers data. He interviews employees privately to understand the real issues, analyzes financial data to identify specific problems versus general market conditions, and researches how similar companies handled comparable crises. The secret is what I call pressure protocols. Just like pilots have emergency checklists, Sigmas develop standardized information-gathering procedures for high-stress situations. When pressure hits, instead of operating from emotion, they activate their protocol. This might include identifying the 3 most knowledgeable people about the situation and getting their perspectives, distinguishing between facts and opinions in all information received, determining which aspects of the crisis are within their control versus external factors, and establishing a timeline for when decisions must be made versus when they can be delayed for more information. But here's what separates amateur observers from Sigma-level data collectors: the ability to gather information from unwilling sources. In crisis situations, people often withhold information, either to protect themselves or because they don't trust your intentions. The Sigma develops what I call indirect intelligence gathering. He learns to read what people don't say, to identify information gaps that reveal hidden agendas, and to cross-reference multiple sources to verify accuracy. A practical example: if you suspect a business partner isn't being fully transparent about financial problems, don't ask direct questions. they'll likely deflect. Instead, observe their behavior patterns. Note changes in their usual routines, listen for inconsistencies in their stories over time, and pay attention to how their employees or associates behave around the topic. This indirect approach often reveals more accurate information than direct confrontation. The Sigma also understands that in high-pressure situations, emotions themselves become valuable data. If someone seems unusually calm about a crisis, that calmness might indicate either genuine confidence or dangerous denial. If someone is panicking disproportionately to the actual threat, their panic might reveal hidden vulnerabilities or additional problems you're not aware of. Emotional reactions, properly interpreted, become intelligence assets. Time management becomes crucial during crisis data collection. The Sigma allocates specific time blocks for information gathering versus decision-making. He resists the pressure to make immediate decisions when additional information could significantly improve outcomes. But he also doesn't use information gathering as an excuse to avoid necessary but difficult decisions. The calculation matrix. The fifth pillar is where the Sigma's analytical superiority becomes undeniable, the systematic evaluation of options before action. While others operate from intuition, impulse, or social pressure, the Sigma has developed what I call the calculation matrix, a mental framework that ensures every significant decision is optimized for maximum advantage with minimum risk. This isn't about over-analysis or paralysis by analysis. The calculation matrix operates quickly, often in seconds, but it's thorough. The Sigma automatically evaluates 5 key variables: potential outcomes and their probabilities, resource requirements and availability, timeline constraints and opportunities, stakeholder reactions and ripple effects, and exit strategies if the decision proves wrong. Let me give you a concrete example. Your boss offers you a promotion that requires relocating to another city. The average person focuses on obvious factors: salary increase, career advancement, or family disruption. The Sigma's calculation matrix goes deeper. He evaluates the political dynamics of why this position became available, researches the new locations industry ecosystem and networking opportunities, analyzes the long-term career trajectory this move creates versus staying put, calculates the total financial impact including hidden costs and tax implications, assesses how this move affects his personal relationships and social capital, and identifies multiple exit strategies if the position doesn't work out. The key insight is that Sigmas don't just calculate logical factors, they calculate human factors. They understand that most decisions involve other people, and other people are predictably irrational. So the calculation matrix includes: how will this decision affect my reputation with key stakeholders? Which people will be threatened by this choice, and how might they respond? What unofficial alliances or conflicts might this create? And how does this position me for future opportunities that aren't currently visible? Here's where the calculation matrix becomes incredibly powerful. The Sigma develops decision trees. For major choices, he doesn't just evaluate the immediate decision. He maps out the likely sequence of decisions that will follow. If I take this promotion and it goes well, what opportunities open up? If it goes poorly, what are my options? If market conditions change, how does this position help or hurt me? This forward thinking prevents the kind of short-term optimization that destroys long-term potential. The calculation matrix also includes what I call asymmetric risk analysis. The Sigma looks for decisions where the potential upside significantly outweighs the potential downside, or where the downside is limited but the upside is unlimited. This is how Sigmas consistently make choices that seem risky to others, but are actually lower risk when properly analyzed. But perhaps most importantly, The calculation matrix includes ego elimination. The Sigma calculates what decision serves his actual interests, not what decision makes him look good, feel good, or avoid short-term discomfort. This is why Sigmas often make choices that confuse other people. They're optimizing for different variables than social approval or immediate gratification. Precision execution over hasty action. The sixth pillar addresses the most critical phase, turning analysis into results. While observation and calculation are crucial, they're worthless without precise execution. The Sigma's advantage isn't just that he thinks better, it's that he acts better. His execution is characterized by what I call surgical precision. Every action is deliberate, timed for maximum impact, and designed to achieve specific outcomes. The difference between Sigma execution and average execution is like the difference between a sniper and someone firing randomly into the air. Both involve weapons, both create noise, but only one hits the target. When the Sigma acts, it's because his analysis has identified the exact right moment, method, and intensity for maximum effectiveness. Consider workplace politics. When an average employee has a conflict with a colleague, he might complain to HR, gossip with other co-workers, or confront the person directly when emotions are high. All action, zero precision. The Sigma? He waits for the optimal moment, perhaps when the colleague needs his help on a project, or during a meeting where the colleague's behavior is visible to decision-makers. His intervention is calibrated to achieve specific objectives, establishing his professional reputation, demonstrating leadership capability, or positioning himself advantageously for future opportunities. Precision execution requires what I call action discipline. This means the Sigma doesn't act just because he can, or because he feels pressure to do something. He acts when action serves his strategic objectives, not when action satisfies emotional impulses or social expectations. Sometimes the most precise action is no action, allowing situations to develop until intervention can be more effective. The timing component of precision execution is crucial. The Sigma understands that the same action at different times produces completely different results. Asking for a raise the day after the company announces budget cuts, poor timing. Asking for a raise the week after you've solved a major problem and received public recognition. Perfect timing. The action is identical. The context determines the outcome. Intensity calibration is another key element. The Sigma applies exactly the amount of force necessary to achieve his objective. No more, no less. If a gentle suggestion will accomplish his goal, he doesn't deliver a forceful demand. If a forceful demand is required, he doesn't waste time with gentle suggestions. This calibration prevents unnecessary conflict while ensuring adequate impact. The Sigma also masters what I call multi-level execution. While others focus on immediate results, the Sigma's actions simultaneously serve multiple objectives. A single conversation might advance a project, build a relationship, gather intelligence, and position him for future opportunities. This efficiency multiplies his impact while minimizing his time investment. Perhaps most importantly, precision. Execution includes feedback loops. The Sigma monitors the results of his actions and adjusts his approach based on actual outcomes versus intended outcomes. If his calculations were wrong, he doesn't repeat the same mistake. If his timing was off, he adjusts for next time. This continuous calibration ensures his execution becomes more precise over time, building the unbreakable Sigma mind. The seventh and final pillar synthesizes everything into a comprehensive mental framework that becomes increasingly powerful. Over time, Building the unbreakable Sigma mind isn't about occasional moments of clarity, it's about developing a mental operating system that defaults to strategic thinking under all conditions. This is where temporary Sigma behaviors become permanent Sigma character. The foundation of the unbreakable mind is what I call mental architecture. Just like physical architecture determines how a building responds to stress, mental architecture determines how your mind responds to pressure. The Sigma designs his mental architecture intentionally, creating thought patterns that automatically guide him toward strategic responses rather than emotional reactions. This mental architecture has several key components. First, automated pattern recognition. The ability to quickly identify familiar situations and apply proven response frameworks. Second, stress inoculation. Regular exposure to controlled pressure that builds tolerance for real-world chaos. Third, cognitive flexibility, the capacity to shift between different thinking modes depending on what the situation requires. Fourth, emotional regulation systems, reliable methods for managing emotional states without suppressing valuable emotional information. The Sigma develops what I call mental redundancy. Just like critical systems have backup power, the Sigma has backup decision-making processes. If his primary analytical approach fails, he has secondary frameworks to fall back on. If his usual stress management techniques aren't working, he has alternative methods ready. This redundancy prevents mental system failure during extreme pressure. Building mental resilience requires what I call progressive overload. The same principle bodybuilders use for physical strength. You systematically expose yourself to increasingly challenging situations, building your capacity to handle stress while maintaining strategic thinking. Start with minor annoyances and practice your observe, calculate, act framework. Gradually work up to more significant challenges. Over time, your stress tolerance expands while your decision-making quality remains consistent. The unbreakable Sigma mind also includes what I call strategic memory. Instead of just remembering events, the Sigma systematically catalogs what worked, what didn't work, and why. He builds a personal database of effective responses to different situations. This means he's constantly learning from experience and becoming more effective over time. Recovery protocols are essential for maintaining the unbreakable mind. Even Sigmas experience mental fatigue, emotional drain, and decision fatigue. The difference is that Sigmas have systematic methods for mental recovery, whether that's physical exercise, meditation, strategic solitude, or engaging in activities that recharge their analytical capabilities. They treat mental maintenance as seriously as physical maintenance. The ultimate goal is developing what I call anti-fragility, a mind that doesn't just survive stress, but actually becomes stronger from encountering challenges. Each difficult situation becomes training that increases your capacity for the next challenge. Each calculated risk that pays off increases your confidence in your judgment. Each successful navigation of complex situations expands your repertoire of effective responses. The Sigma male's refusal to go crazy isn't about suppressing emotions or being robotic. It's about channeling mental energy into productive analysis and strategic action. While others burn energy in emotional reactions, the Sigma conserves that same energy and redirects it into gathering information, processing options, and executing with precision. This approach doesn't just prevent mistakes, it creates competitive advantages. When everyone else is operating from emotion, the Sigma, operating from logic and strategy, naturally rises above the chaos. This is why Sigmas consistently find themselves in leadership positions. Even when they're not actively seeking them, people naturally gravitate toward those who remain stable when everything else is falling apart. Remember, developing this Observer Calculator Actor Framework is a skill that compounds over time. Every situation where you choose observation over reaction, calculation over impulse, and strategic action over emotional response, you're building the neural pathways that define Sigma excellence. If you're ready to stop being at the mercy of your emotions and start being the master of your responses, subscribe to Official Sigma Male right now. Hit that notification bell, because we're building a community of men who understand that true power comes not from reacting to life, but from strategically responding to it. Your transformation from reactive to strategic starts today, and this channel is your guide for the entire journey.